Hey guys, what's up? It's Christine Seal, the high level queen, and today we have a super exciting interview with the owner and founder of Quality Media. His name is Dylan Carpenter, and he spends between $750,000 to $1 million a month on ads, and he has graciously agreed to share his time with us today. Hey Dylan, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. How you been?
Doing pretty good over here. I know you just got back from Miami, and I was in Cabo for a week, maybe like 2 weeks ago. So I mean, I'm still getting in that little work vibe, I feel like. So I mean, you're probably in the same boat, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem at all. Pumped to kind of share some findings. I mean, everything's been changing in the Facebook and Instagram world and just paid ad world in general. So, I mean, these are pretty cool findings. I mean, of course, there's never a one size fits all. So hopefully this gives everybody some different perspectives and some actionable takeaways on, how to help their marketing campaigns, diversifying channels, that kind of fun stuff. And I know we had 3 main topics, but I did include 2 more to kind of make it extra juicy that could be relevant to your audience there. So they're kind of extra little golden nuggets in there. So it could be juicy.
Sweet. Okay, well, I want to start real quick by, would you mind just telling us a little bit about you and like telling us your story and how in the heck did you get to be like have such big ad accounts? Like how are you spending so much money on ads and like kind of your story and how you started?
Yeah, so I graduated college, May of 2017 here. I'm in Austin, Texas, and this was in San Marcos, like 40 minutes from me at Texas State. I did marketing with the sales concentration, so I'm a sales guy at heart, basically. But I almost moved to Orlando to be a custom suit tailor. Thank God I didn't do that. I play ice hockey, so I love suits and stuff, so I thought it'd be cool. But my brother worked at Accenture. He goes, hey, look up some sales jobs for Accenture. So I went on Indeed, typed in sales, Accenture, and contract popped up. Turns out it was a Facebook contract. So I jumped on that, interviewed with them, got the job, shoot an hour after the interview, and I went to work the next week, basically here in Austin, Texas. So I started off as a marketing expert, very basic knowledge. They kind of threw us to the wolves. So it was kind of up to us to more or less learn what works and just the ins and outs of the platform. And I was a super nerd and geek then. So, I mean, I still am, but I love all this stuff. So I kind of dove into it. And after being one of the top sales guys on our team, I moved to an account management role where I had 150 accounts each quarter. And the main goal was to kind of maximize the ROI. And I worked with a ton of agencies, a ton of business owners who are running their ads. So I got to see the ins and outs of the agencies, how much money they're bringing in, as well as the business owner perspective side. So I got really good at understanding what was going on, how to explain it from a beginner, intermediate to advanced level there, and kind of was just a sponge. And after being there for a year, I left. And with how big agencies were coming along back then, I thought the next thing to do was launch my agency, Quality Media. So I've had that for 3 years now. It's booming. But yeah, when it comes to working with these big accounts, I have probably over 60 or 70 case studies. I haven't done one in over a year just because I haven't needed to. But ultimately, it's just making really cool connections, having good referral deals, partnerships, and kind of just putting myself more out there, whether it's in Facebook groups, doing awesome presentations like this. I do shoot probably 2 or 3 of these a month. And I mean, it's a great way to kind of get your name out there, get some more authority, and just kind of add to your, tool set, basically. But yeah, I kind of randomly fell into it, took it by the horns, and just became a sponge, tried to learn everything I possibly could. Granted, I did have, a lot of inside info at Facebook, not insider cool stuff, but like I got to see how everything worked from a micro level, which I could bring out to, basically what I'm doing these days. So yeah, I kind of fell into it. Pretty lucky there. And now I live and breathe this stuff. So it's kind of wild how it all came to be.
That's really cool. Did you actually work for Accenture or you just looked at their jobs?
So with the Facebook contract, Facebook only has like maybe out of everybody who works at Facebook, maybe only 5 to 10% are actual Facebook employees. The other people are outsourced by consulting companies like Accenture, BC Ford, Ravana. So I was one of those Accenture consultants essentially.
Okay. Yeah. I'm asking because when I was in corporate, we used Accenture for a lot of our IT work. So I heard that and they're like all over the place. I had some friends that work for them. So
they're huge.
That's
yeah,
cool.
They're no joke.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, very cool. So Guys, if you want to go ahead and put your questions in the chat, we will get to them if they're relevant to what we're talking about, or at the end, if not. But Dylan, one of the main things that I think a lot of people want to know from you specifically is, like, in the last 6 months, what in the heck is going on with Facebook? Okay, like, what's going on? Like, why is it so hard to get ads approved? Why are people getting banned? How has it changed? And, like, what do they need to do to, like, not have to close their business?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I'll dive into all of this. So, I mean, I know you had some things people had some questions on when it comes to scaling, hiring media buyers, and of course, what's been going on in the last 6 months, whether it's, ads getting approved, bans, that kind of stuff, as well as some of the other bigger trends I've noticed in the last 6 months on reporting, tracking, iOS 14 stuff. So we can get nitty gritty and kind of dive into this stuff.
Let's do it. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I think I was doing it maybe. There we go. Oops, wrong button. Sweet. So, y'all, I'll be bouncing around most likely. We'll kind of dive into the PowerPoints first, and midway through, I'm actually going to dive into an ad account, kind of show y'all how to structure a newer brand we just got this week, how we set up our creative tests, the audience testing, the overall structure of the ad account, so you'll actually see how we set it up internally for our agency. Now, of course, lessons learned after 20 million ad spend. As mentioned, I shoot 750 to $1 million a month in ads. I work with some banks, e-com businesses, lead generation, a lot of direct-to-consumer brands with larger average order values, probably $70 plus. I have some beauty brands, high-end apparel, custom record consoles, men's health. Men's health's been a hot one for me. We've done about 3 million in sales in the last probably 6 to 9 months. So that's pretty nifty there. And it's a new brand, so it's kind of cool. We're scaling them up quick. So I love this stuff. So basically, I'm going to be teaching some lessons learned after 20 million ad spend, y'all. So my background, as mentioned, former Facebook account manager. We 100% specialize in Facebook and Instagram ads. I think that's a big thing these days, is people try and diversify what they do without learning an actual skill set. So, I mean, if you're all over the place for LinkedIn, email, SMS, Facebook, Pinterest, fine tune one area, perfect it, and then you can always have the others. But I mean, Facebook and IG ads are our bread and butter. But of course, with how the ad ecosystem has changed, I've been testing a lot more Snapchat and TikTok. We love Snapchat. TikTok is very native to where it's a lot harder to get to work. We probably spent about 60 or 70K on it. Not profitably, unfortunately, but the hardest part with TikTok is just getting good creative, because you can't repurpose any creative from Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat, just because TikTok is so custom to the types of videos people create there. Now, with that being said, with that 20 million ad spend, it's been profitable. We probably generated maybe 42 to 45 million realistically. But yeah, it's fun. Now, with that being said, been an agency owner for 3+ years, quality media. It's around, but I mean, at the end of the day, I do more freelance work. I think everybody and their mom has an agency now, so it's kind of dying off. And there are just no cool value props these days for agencies. So, I mean, with the way I incorporate how we work, I have a creative director, a copywriter, and then I'm the media buyer, basically. That's how I want it to stay. We do a lot more white glove service, AKA freelance. So, I mean, everybody gets paid under quality media, but I mean, we're not a full service agency or full stack to where we kind of just really focus on what we're good at, basically. Now, from the point with a team of 3, I did want to scale. This year is going to be huge, a lot more creative assets, a lot more ads for quality media. But I decided to kind of tone it back, just because I knew with my sweet spot, I keep clients for years and our margins are freaking awesome. So, I mean, I could end up, trying to bring on more clients to where, hey, our retention may suffer, because with more, volume of accounts, we get to spend less time in specific accounts that are working well. So, I mean, I didn't want to scale up and have our retention take, a beating, because if you talk to an agency or a media buyer and ask them their retention, it's a great tip for if you're trying to hire a media buyer, ask them about retention. Hey, have you lost any accounts this year? What was the reason? To kind of really gauge their background as well as how good they are at what they do. Because I mean, most media buyers, I think 6 months plus is a better kind of window there. It's where if you start hearing anything less than 6 months, that should set off some red flags in your head. And if, hey, you lost an account, why did you lose it? I know with the accounts I lost this year, we were scaling them rapidly to where they just needed a lot more creative. And basically with that, I couldn't hold the whole, I couldn't do that all with 3 people basically. So it was a little bit trickier at scale there. So they went to a larger agency called Mute 6, ramped it up. They did, their job there. So I mean, for us, it was just a big account that we could only scale so much with our bandwidth. The other cool part about what I did was a lot of white label ads. I used to work with a white label agency, came on with them, probably got them over 250 agencies, over 750 accounts. And for those who don't know what white label is, it's basically our clients were agencies and they needed fulfillment. So we would run all the ads for their clients at a prorated cost or wholesale cost, basically, so they could have nice margins as well. Now I avoid it like the plague. I don't do any white label. I have one agency, but I mean, it's only one account, so it's not too crazy there, just because volume-based models, that's where dreams go to die, in my opinion. I got super burnt out and, wanted nothing to do with it, basically. So now we work with all of our brands directly. If an agency does need help on fulfillment, there are a lot of boxes to check, basically. So it's definitely okay to say no in your business. I mean, it's nice to have a pretty penny or a paycheck coming through, but I mean, if you don't think you can kind of fulfill, then I would just say no. So topics today, how the ad spectrum has changed in the last 6 months. Basically, it's been a wild ride. I can definitely say the last 2 months have been nightmares for media buyers, just because some things work that shouldn't work, things that are working don't work, so it's kind of a mess. How to get your marketing campaign structured and how to properly test. This is huge. I see so many ad accounts I audit that just throw stuff at the wall and hope things stick. There's no testing strategy. There's no control campaigns. They're getting too granular. So, I mean, we'll be diving into an actual account I signed on this week that we're going to be launching today. So I'm going to kind of dive into how we, build the ads out, how we test them, how we kind of have more control campaigns with different audience types, prospecting and retargeting. So you can kind of see how we do it for a smaller brand that's just getting started. How to keep momentum and ramp up what's working. I know this is going to be a hot topic. I've scaled maybe like 5 or 6 brands from spending 0 to like 5 or 6K a day within 90 days and, up to 180 days. So we've scaled pretty quick, but of course, y'all may not have that cash flow to kind of scale that rapidly. So I'll probably be chatting on multiple options on how to scale, whether it's, with smaller budgets or larger budgets there. The next 2 points are kind of more goodies. I think it's huge here. The best ways to diversify your channels to maximize new customers or lead growth. This is huge. All these channels are meant to drive new customers. It's cool for retargeting, but I want to be able to acquire new customers at a great cost and then build LTV through email, SMS, communities, etc. there. And last but not least, partnership and referral deals. This is going to be juicy. It's not going to be too long of a session, but it's your network as well as your client base and how to kind of monetize it even more. I do a ton of like partnership deals to where rather than me offering like CRO, for example, I just refer it out and I get 10% of the commissions for the lifetime there. So, I mean, you can easily pull in, if you have a lot of people in your network, you can easily pull in 5 to 10K extra a month just based off referral deals to where I don't want to deal with that. So I'll hand it off to them and just get a commission on that side. But I'll dive into more of how I do that. So when it comes to how ads have changed in the last 6 months, these are just kind of bullet points. I go and ramble on each one of these points basically. So the biggest thing is iOS 14 tracking and what it means. This is one of the bigger ones that's been on the radar for most media buyers. And a lot of people have been thinking, hey, this launched in January, but I mean, it's actually launching in about a week and a half to 2 weeks here. And what it is people are opting out of tracking basically. So some of y'all may have seen this, but if you open up an app, I saw it on QuickBooks this morning. It's where they were asking, hey, do you want to allow us to kind of track your data so you can have more relevant ads? If you say yes, that's what I want. Everybody say yes, just because that gives Facebook more data to kind of share with the advertisers versus if you say no, we're not going to get much of that data. So the biggest way I've been seeing this is no one knows if it's 100% rolled out or how it's going to get rolled out. But basically, for an e-commerce funnel, for example, you can track product page views, add to carts, checkouts to purchases, and it should go down. So, 100 product page views, 50 add to carts, 20 initiate checkouts, 10 purchases. But now we're even noticing we're getting really weird benchmarks to where I usually set KPI goals for each part of the funnel saying, hey, if our add to cart cost is $5, I know we're going to be killing it from a CPA or cost to acquire a customer perspective here. But with this issue, it's messing up all the benchmarks and KPIs. So everything moving forward is going to be changed a little bit differently. But the best way to put this is, we'll have 100 purchases fire off, but only 20 add to carts. And what this is when people opt out of the tracking, Facebook's only going to be able to track one event. And typically most brands have 4 to 5 events for e-commerce, add to cart, initiate checkout, purchase, etc. Those are events. For lead gen, it could be maybe a custom conversion for your landing page, somebody on the, the registration form all the way to the lead. We can only track one of those events now if somebody opts out of this tracking. So ultimately it's affecting your pixel data drastically. And what we're leaning more towards is, rather than looking at Ads Manager for reporting metrics, we're honestly just looking at the Shopify backend board, our CRM, to kind of gauge how much did we spend today and how many leads came through. That's been the best way, just because I think Facebook's tracking has been atrocious the last couple months. So as a media buyer, it's kind of a nightmare going into Ads Manager because, hey, it may be going good, but it's actually not. Or in my case, hey, stuff's hitting the fan. We got to figure something out. But in reality, we're actually doing constant, if not better there. So the iOS 14 is going to be a big pain in the ass. Ways to kind of combat this is essentially you want to verify your domain. So if you have, Facebook and the pixel and everything, you'll have to do an extra step to basically tell Facebook, hey, we own this domain. All the traffic here is, our data basically. So you need to share that with us. It's kind of a pain in the ass if you don't have any kind of backend or developer or coding background, kind of like me. It'll take you a little bit, but I mean, with a couple of YouTube videos, you can find out how to do it basically. And I'll find some and post them in here if y'all are kind of curious here, or make a little video on it. But verifying your domain is the biggest thing, just because you want Facebook to get, leads or purchases to where that's all on-site activity, to where once this rolls out, if you don't have your domain verified, all your on-site activity is not getting tracked. So you'll be missing a crap load of data. Campaigns will get turned off. Facebook's going to have no idea what it's doing. So the biggest first thing to do is verifying your domain with an events manager and ads manager. And shoot, if you Googled events manager or verifying your domain, I almost guarantee something easy will come up there. But in my opinion, the biggest thing in the last 6 months has been the tracking issues, just because that's how we make decisions. And when things that are working, shouldn't be working, or vice versa, it's really awkward in our, scenario, because it's like, there's no explanation. How is this working, or why isn't this working? So it gets a little bit trickier there. The next part is how ad strategies have completely changed. Now, Facebook's changed drastically to where I used to use, a lot of interest targeting, behavior targeting, lookalike audiences, to where those do work still, but not as well at scale. The more room you give the algorithm, the better it gets. Basically what I'm saying is the algorithm is better than any strategy you want to do. So the more you tell Facebook what to do, saying, hey, I want this specific audience, this gender, this age, at this placement, you're probably going to have high ad costs, and it's probably not going to work as well in your favor there. So a lot of the strategies have changed there, basically, to where I'm even pulling out journals from 2 or 3 years ago and testing these out, and somehow they're working again when they haven't worked in the past year and a half. So that's the other tough part, is a lot of the ad strategies haven't changed, and it's relying a lot more on creative assets versus crazy bid types, audiences, placements, and all that stuff. It's literally all creatives. The other fun part is ad costs. So Facebook, you're charged based off CPMs, aka 1,000 impressions, aka an impression is an ad being shown. So to show 1,000 ads, I know last year when I was just doing an analysis of an account we have, from January to March last year, our CPMs were $12. So to show 1,000 ads, it costs $12. This year in the same time window, it's $30. So ad costs have more than doubled for this account, meaning we got to get better creatives, better offer to get more people to the funnel, because the KPIs we judged last year are irrelevant right now. So it's a tricky part there, but I mean, with the ad costs, there are always ways to combat that. Of course, with new platforms, diversifying your, omni-channel approach here. But I mean, Facebook is still going to be the best platform to acquire new customers at a great cost. But with ads getting more expensive, if you have a lower product average order value, say $50 or less, I'll be honest, it's going to be tough to get Facebook to work for you at scale unless you have a bunch of other products to look more from a lifetime value perspective versus, hey, I want to make it 2x on the front end. just because that's really tough these days. And if you have a product under $30, it's going to be very tough. I would recommend bundles to kind of boost those AOVs. I hate discounts. I'd rather push bundles and, at a higher ticket than show them retargeting ads where it's like the bundle separated at an easier cost. So there are different options there, but with ads being more expensive, you have to kind of take into consideration your average order value and lifetime value of a customer. This next segment is the new area of focus. It's all creatives, ad copy, offers, the creative assets, videos versus statics. It's not bid types or audiences. So spend the most time identifying your customer avatar and what creatives and offers or angles and hooks are going to appeal best to them, because we scale with creatives and ramping up the budget. It's not audience testing or, changing different bid types. It's really different creatives. And I'll dive into some examples coming up. And what we're seeing work versus not work as much these days. So with that being said, as mentioned, the things we were doing last year aren't working right now. I used to love broad targeting campaigns where I wouldn't even put any interest or lookalikes or any targeting at all. I would just optimize for purchase or lead and let Facebook do its thing here. So while that did used to work in the past, it's not working as good these days. So we've brought out a lot more, audience targeting just to kind of ease the pain a little bit, because with old stuff not working, you always have to be testing newer stuff. And sometimes that new stuff is stuff from 3 years ago, but it's good to kind of bring it back in rotation because Facebook changes. And it's good to kind of stay, and adapt with it. But it's never a one size fits all. So when it comes to kind of getting everything structured, I think this will be the most important, to be honest with y'all, is getting campaigns structured. And this will be kind of more from a beginner standpoint here. So I'll give an actual example for this, but essentially all you need are 2 campaigns. You don't need to have 5 or 6. And within each campaign, you can have as many ad sets as you want, but I typically recommend 4 to 5. And by ad sets, I mean audiences. So campaign 1, I always do is creative testing, basically. This is solely to test creative to kind of gauge what works best. This is strictly used for creative and copy testing. This can scale, but it's mostly feeding the concept here of always be testing. The other part of this is you're going to test a bunch of ads. If I test 20 ads a week, I'll find 1 or 2 that actually work, and then I can ramp those up. To the point below, you can actually have $10 daily budgets here. You don't have to spend a crazy amount, even $5. That's what I'm doing for the test I'll show y'all. But you can honestly test creatives at $5 a day. And I test those against really, really big audiences to where I want my ads to work at a broad appeal versus women who are engaged with keto or, who are really into keto, for example. I want it to work on a mass scale so that way I can break it into new audiences down the road and it'll work, either way, basically. Now, when it comes to the creative testing, you have 2 options, basically. You have manual ads or static ads and dynamic creative. With static ads, I'll build out 10 of these and they kind of house themselves. Basically, they're all different, have different creatives, different copy, but it's a single ad. With dynamic creative, it's a cool feature, but it's one ad. It's where I can throw in 4 or 5 videos, 2 or 3 pieces of copy, 2 or 3 headlines, and Facebook mixes them up basically. So you can kind of gauge, what the algorithm thinks will perform best. And you can actually break these out to say, hey, out of these 20 sales, which piece of copy did the best? Which creative asset did the best? And you can then separate that into a static post and kind of scale that up. Just because I've noticed dynamic creative isn't that scalable, I use it more for testing personally. But with this creative testing, of course I want sales and I do look at those sales, but I also look at a lot of the front end metrics like link click-through rate, link cost per click. Now there are different metrics that like cost per click all or click-through rate all, but it's not as relevant because I want people who click on the shop now or learn more button because it shows a lot more intent there. And I look for a 1% or more and probably a $1.50 or less link click-through rate. And that's typically where we see the most success. It's where we kind of have those benchmarks to where, hey, if this link click-through rate's not 1% or more, it's probably not going to be that very engaging or scalable of an ad. But if we're getting a 1.3% link click-through rate, I'm over here getting sweaty thinking this is going to be a gold mine here. So for us, it's kind of more to gauge the engagement side of things, the click-through rate, and then of course, the add to cart, checkout, lead cost, purchase cost, etc. But it's more to kind of gauge how that ad works on a mass scale. And I'll show y'all how I do this in a minute. When it comes to campaign 2, this is the head honcho campaign. You really only need one of these. Based on this, we're consolidating ad spend. Having one campaign, not considering the testing, but this head honcho campaign, this is the one I scale personally. But having one campaign with a larger budget versus having 3 campaigns with split up budgets, you'll get a way better bang for your buck with this, just because you're not spreading yourself too thin. Facebook wants a lot of conversions a week. So, I mean, if you're only getting 1 or 2 a week versus with 3 campaigns versus 10 to 15 with one campaign, that one campaign with 10 to 15 conversions is going to optimize way faster, it learns quicker, and you can scale it a lot faster here. The whole thing is working smarter and not spreading yourself too thin. Because I mean, if you're trying to get finicky with Facebook and try and outsmart it, it's going to outsmart you, and your results are going to suffer. The algo works in your favor just because with the pixel, it knows what people are doing, add to cart, purchasing. So I mean, when you optimize for these events, Facebook will get you what you ask for. A fun thing to do is, if you're always curious on how good the algorithm is, test 2 different campaigns to where if you have an e-com brand, test conversion campaigns all day, every day. I don't do traffic, video views, engagement. Those give you fluff metrics. Always go for the kill with conversion campaigns because those are what get sales and leads essentially. But with this, if you optimize for purchase and then optimize for add to cart, for that add to cart optimization campaign, the costs are going to be so cheap, but you're not going to get sales. If you optimize for purchase, your add to cart cost is going to creep up, but you're going to get sales. Facebook is very good at getting what you ask for. So it's better to be short, sweet, and simple, kind of more with a simple approach there and making it really obvious and letting the algorithm do its thing here. Now, I would typically recommend, at least for now, merging prospecting and retargeting into one campaign. I used to hate this. I would have never done it before. I usually have separate campaigns for retargeting to kind of get really specific, but it's turned out to be causing too much stress on the algorithm. So where our prospecting is already kind of hitting some retargeting ads. So if you want to get more of a blended average or ecosystem average, I'm honestly merging prospecting and retargeting into one campaign and letting Facebook do its thing. That CBO word is campaign budget optimization down there. And what that means is I set my budget at the campaign level and let Facebook allocate the ad sets. So, I mean, if I have 3 prospecting audiences in there and 1 retargeting, Facebook will allocate the budget to whatever's performing best. So that way I know I'm putting my dollars to where I know it matters versus I'm forcing this budget to retargeting and I'm forcing this budget to prospecting. So where you may end up getting a better, overall ROI if you end up merging these together because Facebook knows everything that's going on versus having 2 separate campaigns going for complete different angles here for the most part. Yeah, and to the next line, this will help Facebook allocate budget accordingly to what's actually helping. You can always adjust this, but this is for the kind of more beginner side of things of what's working best for this. And when I say you can adjust this, you can set maximum or minimum spend limits on these ad sets to where if I start noticing Facebook's throwing 90% of my budget to retargeting, I'm 100% going to put a max spend limit on here because I want that budget to go to new customers as well. Because if retargeting is getting all the fluff right now, it may look good, but I know it's going to die off because I got to feed the beast basically. Now, when it comes to ramping these up, I do this still. For these smaller accounts, you're always going to be creative testing basically. It's a never ending cycle. For most of the brands we have, we test 5 to 10 new creatives every single week or new ads more or less. And as mentioned, 2 of those may hit. I bring those to my head honcho campaign, which is meant for scaling, not for testing and kind of keeping that consistency. But if you are seeing results, simple, bump the budget 10 to 15% a day. This is the most simple way I found that doesn't break the system most of the time. Sometimes it will, and you have to scale it back a little bit, then ramp it back up. It's pretty stupid, but it's just the way it works. Now, if you're thinking only 10 to 15%, that's not enough. Give it 7 freaking days. You're getting a 70% budget increase, if not more. I mean, the biggest objections I hear from this is, hey, if it's working, I want to double it quick. You can double it, see what happens. It may work, it may not, but it has a way better chance of breaking the campaign. So where your results for the next few days may suck or a few weeks, basically. So the best way we've done it is 10 to 15% budget increments, increases, and that can be at the campaign level using CBO or even at the ad set level if you're setting budgets at the audience level. It can go either way, but this is the safest. But hey, test what works best for you because there are definitely other ways to scale. And I'll dive that into this next section. But before we dive into the established side, I'm going to dive into an actual account to kind of give you all an example of how I set these up. Can you see
Oh,
my screen okay, Christina?
yeah, guys, if you want to see this, wait, give us some love. They have to work for it, Dylan.
Hey, that works for me.
Give us likes, hearts, comments. Help us with the algorithm. More people need to see this. Come on, guys. Do you guys want to see behind the scenes of Dylan's ad account? Okay, $1 million a month in ad spend. What? He's going to show you, like, for free. Does anybody want to see that? Come on. Come on, guys. Show some love. I don't see any love. I'm not seeing the love. I'm not feeling the love, Dylan.
Hey, and no worries. They'll show some love at some point.
Oh, wait. Here's some hearts. Oh. Oh, wow. I'm getting, okay. Keep it coming.
There must be a lag time or something.
Yeah, there is. Okay. All right. We'll go. We'll show them.
Sweet. So with this campaign, this is an account we brought on this week. It's a newer brand. Their average order value probably sits in that $300 range, which is my favorite. It's a high-end luxury brand over in Canada. So step one of what I do in this scenario is I always create an ad bank. I build all of my ads in here and publish those basically. What that is, as you can see here, I did these yesterday. This is our 415 batch 1 test. Now, with ignore all the green stuff, that means it's in draft, so I have to launch all this, which I'll do basically after this, is I craft these 6 different ads right here. Ignore the copy side, because basically how this works is, I build the ad out, make it look super sexy and appealing. And this is how it normally looks. You can have the ad copy here, the headline, but what I do once I publish that is I turn it into an existing post. What that means is every time I duplicate this across 10 audiences, 100 audiences, it's going to retain all that social proof. So this is a static ad of what I kind of mentioned. So this is basically where I build all of my ads out, and then I duplicate these over into my main creative testing campaigns and my control campaigns. So this was the static I was talking about. It works really well. This is what I would recommend basically. But if you are using dynamic creative, this is a fun account. I mean, this month we spent $7K on this one freaking, audience basically, but we use dynamic creative here. So when I want to kind of see what works, I can actually break out my image to say, hey, this image right here got 28 purchases. It's obviously doing the best. Let me separate this ad and bring it into the static post, which is what I was just showing. I can then kind of dive in and see, hey, which piece of body of copy worked great. Cool, this one's got the most sales at a best cost. I'm going to use this one. It works the best by far. The same concept on the headline side. We're testing 2 headlines. One's obviously cheaper than the other. So that's the one we're going to roll with when we bring these into their own static ads. And as mentioned, with this, you can basically throw all these different ads in here. So I got 4 different static images, 3 pieces of copy, 2 headlines here, and Facebook cycles them out to kind of find what works best. Now, once I see what works best, that's when I start building these out to say, hey, this was the best copy, this was the best creative. I want this in its ad alone, because with dynamic creative, you'll have one that does the best, but Facebook doesn't always push that budget the most. So this way I know I'm pushing a good ad out 100% there. So step 1, I build the ad bank, get everything kind of situated. Next step, I then build my conversion creative testing campaign. Something to note here is I only do conversion campaigns just because that's what works for me. And when I'm creative testing, I have 6 different ad sets for the different ads. What I typically do, always optimize for purchase here. As mentioned, we have a $5 daily budget. This account's only going to spend $3K a month out of the gate, but we'll probably scale them to $10K a month within probably like 30 or 40 days, honestly. But Canada only, women 28 plus. That's all I'm freaking doing. I want it to work at the broad appeal. And if we go through each one of these ads, as you can see, nothing changes. So I'm not targeting any specific audiences, any specific interest. I'm just letting it go wild. And I want to see which one of these ads hits off with the best engagement, click-through rate, etc. Now, if you also notice up here, I only have 1 ad per ad set. So basically, in this little section right here, you can see, hey, ad set, 1 ad set, 1 ad. If I were to throw multiple ads in one of these to kind of test, it's not going to be a realistic test, to be honest with you, just because Facebook's going to allocate based off other KPIs. So, I mean, you could have, if you have 3 ads in here, one ad could get 70% of the budget, to where you're like, this seems to be working, but the others just haven't got enough budget. So it's going to take longer and longer to gauge what creatives work best. So that's why I split all of the actual creatives up, because I'm going to give these, 5 or 6 days to kind of kick off. And I guarantee I'll be able to say, hey, this ad 3 and ad 1 are by far the best. Let's go ahead and, ramp those up into the other campaign, basically. Now, with this being a brand new account, I don't want the only thing I have to be testing. So I did pull some of the top ads I thought would work the best. And let's go ahead and launch this creative testing campaign just for fun. Sweet, gnarly. Because yeah, I hate seeing all this green. It drives me nuts. Now, the next step is that control, or the head honcho campaign, basically. I use CBO, or campaign budget optimization. I set at 75 bucks a day, let it run wild. For the creative testing, that's where I set the budget at the actual audience level, because I don't want Facebook allocating the budget. I want to force budget to these freaking ads. Now, with this conversion CBO campaign, as you can see, the green ones are the ones that are actually in this campaign. The others are just, there we go, are just getting approved. So I have a lookalike 10% based off 90-day site visitors. I have an interest stack based off luxury goods, expensive taste, first class travel, shopping, and fashion. So I just stack a shitload of interest in there. So that way it's kind of somewhat targeted, but it's still the broad appeal. Then my favorite, wide open targeting, 28 plus, women only in Canada. And typically I'll probably see most of my budget going to this, but that usually works the best. And then typically I'm now adding in middle of funnel and bottom of funnel to the exact same campaign, just because I don't want to cause any overlap. I guarantee these ads right here are going to be hitting some warmer audiences. So I'd rather consolidate everything into one campaign, kind of to roll them all. I don't like that terminology, but it really is one campaign to kind of roll them all there, basically. But this is just based off, all my 30-day site users, add to cart, initiate checkout, product page views, people who engage with our Facebook page and Instagram page within 30 days. Canada only, 28 plus, women. And the reason I have it 28 plus is it's not cheap. We got some jackets 500 bucks. So, I mean, you're not a 22-year-old woman buying that unless you got, something going on. So that's exactly how we set it up, basically. The next part is, once I get these top ads in my ad bank, now I am going to be swapping all of these out in this head honcho campaign, but I just select all of these basically, and I just duplicate them into my head honcho campaign essentially. So I already did that basically. So within each one of these audiences, I have 7 different ads, where I should have 6 actually. So 1, 2, 3, we'll figure that out another time. There we go, T1. So yeah, that was just a bad test, so you can delete that. So basically, I just pull all of our top-ish ads or creative testing ads into this campaign, and basically, once it's good to go, I can publish this. So basically, after this, I'm going to come in here, make sure I don't have a one-off ad that's not built out, then I'll publish it, and I'll let this run wild. Now, I'll give this 5 or 6 days before I actually touch anything, just because of delayed attribution. If somebody sees an ad today, they could buy, but they probably won't. We don't have a cheap product, so they're probably going to buy within 7 days. So, I mean, I want to make sure I give people, at least on day 1, 3 or 4 days to buy the product, so I can essentially gauge if this works or not. Because, I mean, with our budget and our AOV, we have a lot of wiggle room here. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time than I typically do versus a product that costs $50 or $70. So that's how I set up a beginner campaign. It's a smaller budget. It works great. You can do the exact same thing for lead generation as well. Honestly, if I were to have a lead gen account, it would look the exact freaking same here if I was building it. So, I mean, that's exactly how I would do it for ecom as well as lead gen. The only difference would be optimizing for lead versus purchase. Let's dive through the next section.
Yeah, is it cool if we do a couple questions on that?
Yeah, bring it on. Yeah.
All right, so we're getting lots of hearts, by the way, like lots of hearts. There's some more hearts. Okay, everyone loves this. What metric do you use to determine best?
Metrics to determine best what?
I don't know.
Is it maybe ad or what metric? So So, I mean, ultimately, I'm looking at CPA, cost to acquire a customer, to be honest with you, because I mean, I want to make sure those are within my wheelhouse. But if you don't have that data, I go back each step from initiate checkout to add to cart to product page view, aka view content. So, I mean, there's not really a best metric here. If you want sales, I look at CPA because I want all my ads to be profitable there to an extent. But if I'm trying to gauge what creative is working best, I'll look at link click-through rate and just overall engagement there. And then, of course, those typically bring in sales as well, but it's not going to be a crazy amount. So yeah, for best ad, it's going to be essentially, I look at link click-through rate, which a lot of people say, hey, that's a fluffy metric. It's not relevant, but I mean, I really don't care. It helps us kind of gauge what works best. And we've noticed that whenever an ad has a 1% or above link click-through rate, it typically works really good at scale. But when it comes to the accounts we are ramping up, something else I even look at is you can make this metric in your ads manager, but we'll do purchases divided by unique landing page views, or even unique purchases divided by unique landing page view. So you can have a conversion rate for a specific ad. And we've noticed whenever you do that, it'll show like, 5.5%. Whenever we have something above 6 or 7%, it's typically an ad we can scale pretty quick. If you notice anything below 5%, you have an issue with maybe something on your site, the creative sucks, just because you should have at least 7% of people who see the ad, go to the landing page that buy the product basically, because it's pretty high intent traffic there, if that makes sense.
Cool. And let's see, we had another one. Andrea, how long will you let them run before pulling the data in your opinion?
4 or 5 days. Some accounts test faster than others. It also depends on your buyer cycle or conversion cycle. Because as mentioned, we have some products that are like $50 and those get bought the same day. So I look at 1-day click windows. So I want to make sure, making a profit on 1-day clicks, and they just, hey, if they see an ad today, I want them to freaking buy. But for this other brand, I was just kind of showcasing, $300 is not a cheap buy. So, I mean, for them, I'm probably going to wait 4 to 5 days before I even look at anything or even touch anything. So, I mean, it really depends on that conversion or buyer cycle there.
Cool. Cool. Makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Much appreciated. Jim. Hey, Jim, what's up? He says, do you ever set your audience for high cost products to income level? Seems appropriate for this product.
Not really. No, I used to. You could do like high income zip codes. I mean, for this one, I had luxury goods because it typically brings in a little higher quality of a customer here. But I mean, I stack the interest. So, I mean, that's only one part of it all basically. But I let my ads do the talking. So, I mean, for our high-end products, I'm very vague on the ad copy. I'm not salesy at all. Get this today, free shipping, fire emoji. I'm short, sweet, and simple to where it adds a little more of a luxury vibe to the feel of the copy. Because I mean, something to kind of note as well is, the ads optimize for what you tell them to, like purchase, but your ads are optimizing as well. So we're gonna dive into this now. Why not? So basically, ads optimize based off who clicks on them and engages and purchases. Facebook knows all of that basically because you have all those data points in there. So if I have a sleep product and right now a creative that's working really good for us is, hey, fall asleep and stay asleep, we're scaling that to the moon. Cool, that's working for us. I can take that exact same creative asset and do something like, are you tired of getting up in the middle of the night to go pee? I can use all the same stuff, but that's a complete different subsection of the audience. So I'll run those 2 ads in the exact same campaign or audience, and they'll hit different pockets because people who get up to go pee versus, fall asleep and stay asleep are complete different types of people. The third one to be in the test would be, hey, fall asleep faster. People toss and turn for hours before they actually close their eyes or, fall asleep basically. So I can use all of our same creative assets, but have these different angles and hooks within the ad itself that separate amongst our generic audience and kind of go to different pockets based on who that user is. So that's actually, how I scale established accounts is we take what's working, find another angle or hook to it, and start ramping that up and testing it basically. I may have wiggled around that question. I really don't know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, I think we can go ahead and continue. We've got like 13 minutes left, guys.
Oh, we're going to speed through this, baby. I got some other good stuff in here. So
okay.
The creative testing is the exact same for the established accounts. I do the exact same, testing method for somebody spending $3K a month or $150K a month. So I would definitely recommend that creative testing model. The controller scaling campaign is essentially the head honcho campaign, but when you start spending more money, you do want to test a little bit more. So I'll sometimes have 2 or 3 control campaigns with different bid types like lowest cost or cost cap with the exact same audiences and the exact same ads, because lowest cost is going to optimize differently versus setting a crazy high cost cap saying, hey, Facebook, I want high quality, users to come into my funnel. I'll pay a little extra for it. Versus lowest cost, I want that dirt cheap stuff. So while they do have the same audiences, they're so big to where there's zero overlap here. The other part of this is using CBO versus ABO, so campaign budgets versus audience budgets. I'll use the exact same audiences here as well. There's not overlap until you're spending like 5 to 10K a day realistically, which a lot of people talk about, audience overlap, but it's kind of a myth, I think. But basically I'll duplicate our CBO control campaign, swap it to ABO or ad set budget optimization, and I'll scale both of them side by side. Now, if you are using ad set budget optimization for these control campaigns, this is actually where I test audiences as well. So, I mean, if I want to diversify it or even scale a little bit, I'm already spending $1,000 a day, but I want to go to $1,250. I'll just bring in 2 more audiences, like a 10% lookalike based off Facebook engagers or video viewers or purchases, and I'll set them at 150 or $200 a day, and boom, now I'm spending, $300 to $400 more a day. So we are kind of scaling at the same time with our winning ads for a new audience though. Then the other part of this is with these larger accounts, I do typically have to segment retargeting. I'll do middle of funnel and bottom of funnel separately there just to force budget, because typically we'll do 80% of our budget prospecting, 20% retargeting, and that's been a good sweet spot there. But a lot of it is pretty similar. It's just testing a lot more at scale, bringing in new campaigns with different bid types, and then testing new audiences. Because you can 100% spend, $1,000 a day with one campaign, but you're not going to see as much consistency there because some days suck, some days are awesome. Facebook's volatile. Now, properly testing, pay attention to the slides before. We dove into dynamic creative. Basically, you throw a bunch of assets and copy in. Facebook separates it to test each one independently. So if I have 4 images, 4 pieces to copy, and 2 headlines, that's like 70 freaking ads, and Facebook will test them all, and I kind of see what works best. Option 2 is kind of what I dove into showing y'all, is those static posts where I had 1 per 1 ad set basically. I like this the most. It's just easy for us to kind of force a budget and, not give Facebook too much time, because if I spend, $100 on an ad where our CPA goal is 20 or 30 bucks, I'll shut it off. If we're looking for, a product purchase of, 20 bucks, I'll typically give it 3, maybe 4 times that to actually get a sale to gauge whether it's working or not. This note below is want to test audiences. Not yet. Find the winning ads with wide open audiences so you can make sure they appeal to the larger audiences. Once you know they work for everybody, they're going to work way freaking better when you target them. When it comes to keeping the momentum and scaling up and ramping, basically, honestly, the best way we see it is ramping up the budget 10 to 15% daily. This is the safest. It doesn't work all the time, but it works the most time. I used to do this thing called the surfing method, shouts out Tim Bird, where I would just double my budget that same day. But that really only works if you have a killer consistent offer that's evergreen, like Black Friday sales, that type of stuff. It's not long-term by any means at all. Option 2 is my favorite, always be testing. That little sleep angle I kind of mentioned to y'all, where we were hitting 1, then we kind of dove into those other 2 angles, that can easily add 4 to 5K a day to our spend level here. So you can easily have the same creative, but have different, offer hooks or angle hooks that kind of call different people out within your subsection of your audience, basically. So rather than doing crazy bid types, I would honestly say creative testing is going to take you to the next level, because that's what moves the needle. And when it comes to creative, it doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to be, a $10,000 shoot. Use your freaking iPhone. Some of our best performing creatives have been shot on an iPhone selfie style, and it's a never ending cycle. You're always going to be testing. Everything dies at some point. So it's a never ending cycle of testing creatives, bringing them into your control campaign. The creatives in your control campaign are going to die at some point. So it's a never ending freaking, loop there. Pretty nifty. But that's by far the best way we've seen scale. And I mean, you may say 10 to 15% daily is not a lot, but when you're doing that and stacking it on, testing more creatives at scale, you can easily go from shoot $0 to $1,000 a day, honestly, pretty quick. Now, everything dies. This is all about channel diversification. Facebook's going to be around for a while. If somebody says it's got 2 years left, they're bullshitting. I don't trust them at all. But The long story is if you can't get one platform to work for you and you go to another, you can't get that to work for you, there's something else. Your product sucks, your offer sucks, your site sucks, there's something else. You know, if you test 10 platforms, 11's not going to be the silver bullet. These also don't need to be paid channels. Organic channels are killer. You want to have a proof of concept first, have, you know, customer avatar, testimonials, user generated content. And a good way to do this is Pinterest, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn. All these organic platforms can be perfected to where they're all going to have their own strategy. And before even running into ads, I would just make sure to have, you know, a proof of concept, some, you know, some sales under your belt, some actual data, so you're not throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Now, in our scenarios, we scale and kind of hit walls. So going to paid channels is a lot easier for us because we can use our findings from Facebook to hit Snapchat hard. Now, with one of our brands, it's very, you know, male 50+ oriented, but we have a good amount of males 25 to, you know, 30 that actually use this. So we pull all of our young demographic data, incorporate that into Snapchats, where we're now scaling our Snapchat side of things, getting new customers at even cheaper costs. So, I mean, for these new paid channels, don't go into it just to try and, you know, test something new out. I typically go into the paid channels to scale or hit new audiences, but I already have a proven offer, proven system, proven product, etc. there. I love that thing. If you can't get 10 to work for you, the 11's not going to be the magic bullet. Now, with us being mostly e-com, we go to Snapchat and TikTok to diversify this because they're super cheap, they're super new, it's trendy. Pinterest has also been a really good one. If you want a big organic play, I would recommend Pinterest for sure. Now, this is sick. We make a lot of money off this. So we have internal referral systems. I don't know how y'all do lead gen. All of ours is referral and word of mouth based, but come up with an offer you can incorporate into your onboarding process. So, I mean, whenever I bring on somebody, I let them know straight up, hey, you know, if you're happy with the work I do and you have anybody who'd be a good fit for me, I don't always say yes, but when I do, I'll give you 50% off, you know, your next month's retainer. Now, of course, 50% discounts are fat. I've had some people save like 20K with me already, but they've also given me over 100K in new customers. So, I mean, this is the easiest way for me to kind of scale up without having to run more ads. And just based off my referral deals, I can close 100% of these because the ones who are referring me out freaking love me. So they're really easy deals to close. I get them at a good deal. My client's now happy and I can kind of scale that way. And, you know, it's kind of on autopilot at that point. The other part is external. So these are kind of more just recurring revenue situations. I use my network like freaking crazy. I know who has affiliate deals, who has all those kind of partnership fees, all that kind of stuff, because I don't want to do it myself. I'd rather refer it out and get 10% commission for lifetime, basically. So, I mean, take a screenshot of this and may be helpful, but I always gauge what everybody's doing and how it fits into my business. And if it'll help provide more value to my clients, I got no problem giving you their number, letting you do their thing, knowing I'm going to have a nice little kickback there. And I have, shoot, like well over 10K in referral fees that I've just been going for well over a year, just from being friends with people, finding out what they do, giving them business, and it's really freaking easy money. Let's wrap it up. So, I mean, we dove into how the ad ecosystem has changed, reporting and tracking issues. The ad costs are on the rise, new strategies that are working as well as not working. There's a lot of outdated shit out there, so be careful what you look at and test on a small scale. Best way to structure ad accounts, beginner versus more established. It's not a one size fits all, but this will definitely get the wheels spinning. Best way to test creatives, dynamic creative or static post. I'm all about static post here. An extra tip, partnership and referral deals. It's all about your network. It's a really easy way to scale up, add more, you know, recurring revenue for your book of business or whatever. So, hey, pay attention to it, have a system for it. It never hurts to have a process just in case. And yeah, you can find me bottom left. I post some goodies on Twitter, and that's about it. But yeah.
Fire! Did you guys like that? Come on, show Dylan some love. Man, that was awesome. You even gave us a wrap up.
Yeah.
Super organized and amazing. Thank you so much, Dylan. I really, really appreciate your time with us today. And I'd love to have you back on in the future. And I need to talk to you offline. Like, for sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, that was exciting. I sped through the last part, so if anybody has questions, let me know. I can always send over a little Loom video going more in depth on what I was talking about. Because, I mean, I think the ads are the biggest thing, but I mean, it's always cool to, you know, have other things going on that are related to the ad world.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much again, guys. Go follow Dylan, check out his socials, and thank you so much for watching with us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.
Woo! Later, y'all.